We've all heard the saying that we should walk in someone else's shoes before we judge them. Now, we know that that's not possible, but it does help if we try and look at people's perspectives from where they're coming from. I'm really excited today because my guest, Neil Matthews, has a podcast called Other People's Shoes. And that's what it's all about, is looking at things from another perspective. I hope you'll join me because the conversation is a beautiful conversation and I just got so much out of it, and I think you will too. Welcome to Longing for More, where Christians come to strengthen their faith, revive their soul, and learn to live their lives with a sense of fulfillment and peace. Listen each week to learn how to incorporate your faith into your daily activities, stop wandering through life feeling empty and unfulfilled, and begin to live your more. Let's get started. We don't have to always agree, but we really should at least try to understand where people are coming from. So Neil, welcome to Longing for More. Please, would you tell us a little bit about yourself as we get started here?
Sure, absolutely. So as you mentioned, I am a podcast host as well. We host a show called Other People's Shoes. We've been out January 2019, so a little over a year now. And this was not my idea to become a podcaster. In fact, it was not even anywhere on my scope of knowledge or anything like that. I have a passion and an excitement to be on television. I don't know how you say that. I probably said that wrong, but I always wanted to be on television as a child. I wanted to be on ESPN. That was my goal. I wanted to be a sports broadcaster. And, I had all these hopes and dreams and, it's crazy. Obviously that didn't work out because I'm in Oregon, not in Bristol, Connecticut. So there's that. But my wife came to me with this idea one day after a stepping down of ministry, and I'm at our local church, and she said, you need a verbal outlet. And first off, I had to Google what a verbal outlet was because I really didn't know. And so from that standpoint, I learned really quick what it would take to get a podcast together. I didn't know anybody, a lot of our mutual friends that we shared, the Erics, the Misties, the Tim, who am I forgetting? The Jodies, all those people that we love so much. I didn't know any of those people. I wish I did, because that might have made my first couple of months a whole lot easier than what it was. But no, I love what I do now. I wish I could do it full time, but God hasn't opened those doors yet. But I'm hoping and praying that maybe one day that'll happen. But that's kind of us in a nutshell, I guess, maybe.
Awesome. So what do you do when you're not doing your podcasting?
Boy, I used to run a lot. I'm an avid runner. I got my running sweatshirt on today. One of the races that we partnered with this last year, we had a lady on by the name of Susan, and her daughter took her life, and so they took the memory of her daughter's name is Grace, and they named a run after her called Run for Grace. And so we partnered with them. They were on our episode, and we gave an entry away, as part of, calling attention to this race. In any event, so when I'm not podcasting, I was running a lot. And so now that the show has kind of sucked, as more of your free time away. I don't want to say your life, that almost has a negative connotation, but it kind of starts to creep in and take over. I don't run as much, but I do when I'm struggling for a content idea or I'm struggling for a direction of the show. I might go out and run 4, 5, 6 miles and kind of clear the head and shake the cobwebs out. So
I'm just going to tell you, you don't have to go that far to trigger that creative side of your mind, but if it works for you, go for it.
Well, I do. The first mile is usually the mile that I'm like, why am I out here? The second mile is generally like, okay, I'm in the rhythm. The third mile, I'm like, then everything's shut off. And then usually by the fourth, fifth mile, I'm good to go. So
I'm not a runner, so I wouldn't get anything done if I had to go 5 miles before I got any creative ideas. So, anyway, like I mentioned, I love the other people's shoes idea, and I think that it's really, really great. How did that come to you? How did you decide that was what you were going to broadcast?
Well, I have a shoe obsession. as those who have listened know. And so in that shoe obsession, my wife was like, I think you really need to get perspective, right? You need to get someone else's perspective. And I said, well, like trying on someone else's shoes, like walking in someone else's shoes. And she goes, yeah, it's all about perspective. And so slowly over time, we kind of morphed our message. We say quite often, after all, when you walk in other people's shoes, you really do get a different perspective on life. It sounds kind of fun to say and maybe even a little cliche, but it really is truly who I want to be and who I really feel like God's wired me to be. Because again, I go back to this idea. I don't know what you've gone through. I'm using you, Vana, as my example here. I don't know what you've walked through. I don't know what you've experienced. And just by looking at you or talking with you, I might have an understanding of who you are, but I don't really know the essence of who you are. And if I don't know the essence of who you are, how can I possibly have feeling and compassion for you? And I
Absolutely.
believe our world is desperately, desperately seeking empathy. I mean, look at everything that's gone on, not only since COVID, obviously, but now with the racial tensions that are again reoccurring and rising up in our country again. And I'm just saddened. I'm saddened because I don't think we really love our neighbors and really want to get to know our neighbors anymore.
Right.
And to me, I think that's where we have to start to have that
Absolutely.
conversation,
It
So,
starts one at a time.
yep, it does. It really does. And as fun as it is to say to one pair of shoes at a time for us, right? We really want to try our best to get where you've been, walk where you've walked, and hear from your experience.
Right. I love that. I love that. So basically you're talking to people from all different perspectives. And I really love how in one of the shows that I listened to, you just said, I don't have to agree with what you're saying or what you believe, but it's important for me to understand where you're coming from. And I think that is one of those things when we talk about a new normal, especially not coming out of just the whole COVID thing, but now with all the rioting and everything like that. I think it's really important that we don't have to try and get people to agree with us. We don't even have to tell them what we think about some things. We just need to appreciate the fact that everybody has their own story and their own triggers that are causing them to act the way they are. Right?
Yeah, I mean, as an example, we had a lady come on. She came to us actually through another guest, which hello as a podcaster, right? We love that, right? Love that referral, if you will. And anyway, so my professional job that I actually get paid money to do is I'm in collections. So
That's the question you were trying to avoid when I asked you before.
well, maybe. But I do, I again embrace who you are, right?
Right.
So I get paid realistically to find people.
Mhm.
I get paid to not only find people, but then convince them that it's in their best interest to pay back the company that I work for. So just a little small collection thing. So I'm an actual like collector for the company. I'm not like a third party company, and there's all kind of ramifications that come with that. But anyone that knows collections, at least you'll get that hopefully. So anyway, this lady is referred to us, and I immediately go into whenever someone gives me a name or somebody like wants to come on, I immediately my mind goes, real job. Let's find out everything we can about this person. Because for me, when they come on, I want to know who they are. I want to know. I love this line. I want to know who I'm in the room with, right? I want to know who I'm talking to. And so I might do like overabundance research into this person, stalking them, looking at, I shouldn't say stalking them, but it is,
You're
right?
scaring me a little bit.
Okay, fair enough. But I want to know everything about them, right? I want to know what they've done on social media. I want to know, I want to know who they are. I want to know, kind of maybe where they stand. Because for me, if I can get that information, and we do have a questionnaire we use to kind of help in that process as well, but I want to know more about what you're not going to tell me on a questionnaire, if that makes sense.
Yes, I love it.
And so anyway, we research this lady out and we find out that she's a big proponent or a big supporter of the gay and lesbian movement. In fact,
That's the one I listened to.
she co-founded, and her name's Gina, and she co-founded So Pride, which is an organization here that celebrates and has a festival every year about, gay pride. And immediately my heart is like, I don't know about this. I don't know. And then, she's also an African American.
Mhm.
She would call herself an American, but or a black person. So, we have her on and I'm like the whole time, like, I don't know what to ask her. I don't want to, I don't want to offend her. So I'm like kind of tiptoeing around, like, how does she categorize herself? And that was really difficult. But I got to be honest, when we got done with that episode, again, I'm not saying the gay and lesbian are right or wrong. That's not up to me. But it really, again, and I had even a non-believer come up to me and say, that might be your best episode yet. And I was like, okay, tell me why. And he said, well, you finally are doing what your show is all about. You're finally really walking in someone else's opinion. Again, I don't share her views. I don't necessarily agree or disagree with where she's at, but I'm like, yep, this is what we're going to start going after. And again, not saying we can't have somebody that believes what we believe or shares our belief. We can't have those people on, because we still will, because I still am fascinated by people. But for me, it was just really cool that we finally got to really encompass what our show is really about. And she's a great lady. I just have so much respect for her for coming on and giving us an opportunity, right? Because here's this evangelical white guy, like, what the heck, what do I bring value to that conversation? I don't. But she was so gracious and kind, and just a really neat person. So
It
we're
was
privileged to have her as well.
it was a great interview, and I would have never guessed that you were uncomfortable during that interview.
I was.
And
Well, I'm always uncomfortable during an interview. But
what I really liked about it was that she too was looking at it from other people's perspective. I mean, she appreciated the fact that not everybody's going to agree with where she's coming from, and she handled it very, very graciously.
yeah, I
So
think I asked her a question on faith, if I'm not mistaken, and her answer again was not my answer, and she was so gracious even in that, to be so sensitive and kind in that respect. It was really cool. So I'm pretty proud of that in a lot of
yeah.
respects. So,
And you should be. It's interesting because you really got me to thinking. And I've talked about that particular topic on my show a couple of times, and I have a really dear friend who, um, oh, I love her so much, and she is such a powerful, dynamic person. And since I've known her, her high school age son, 16, 17 years old, came out of the closet, and she has embraced that whole. And her what I love about her is her whole message is, why in the heck did he have to come out of the closet? We'll put him in there in the first place. And her whole message is, we need to create a whole world where people don't have to hide who they are. And it's kind of like, I so appreciate her message, but again, it's not in alignment with what I believe. And what's interesting is that this conversation came up right now, is right before this conversation, I was on the phone being interviewed by another coach who was asking, just various questions to build her coaching program. And she asked me a question about what's the one question, I don't remember exactly how she asked it, but what's the one question that you would love to have answered to be able to do your job better? And my answer was something along the lines of, how in the world do I express my message and my faith, what I believe to be biblical truth, while at the same time loving people who don't share the same beliefs I have? And I think what you're doing is the answer to that. So thank you for that.
yeah, absolutely. And it, I'm just gonna be candid. To me, part of my, again, going back to the real job, part of why I think I'm successful, pretty successful at it. Some would say very successful, but I'll let them say that, and I'll just do what I do. But part of the reason why I have my job still, because a lot of my coworkers, quite a bit of them, lost their job in this downturn, that occurred nationwide. And I asked our director, I said, listen, I just got to know, like, could you just tell me, like, why did I get to stay, and why did others get to leave? And She said, Neil, I'm just going to be honest with you. I said, please, I value honesty. I think we all should. And she said, you have a skill set that not everyone has. And I said, okay, what do you mean by that? And she said, well, she said, not everyone can do what you do. And I was like, okay, thank you. Can we get a little more? And she
A
said,
little more
yeah,
specific, please.
yeah. Could we get specifics like, you know, what skill set you're talking about? She said, well, not only do you have the ability to one, find people. I mean, that's obviously a trait that we admire. She said, but you have this unique ability to really understand people. And when she said that, I was just like, my heart just got all pitter pattery and Twitter pated, not towards her, of course, but towards that
Yeah.
comment. I really love that comment because to me, outside perspective, somebody saying that to me is like, okay, almost like a validation from God, like, hey, you are on the right track, my son. Hey, you are in the right sphere. Hey, you are, you know, doing what I've called you to do. Keep going. And to me, that was just, you know, a great validation to hopefully what I hope my life models for people. Because, you know, I love the Mr. Rogers, you know, correlation that you did. I went out and listened to that today. That's why I got my little Mr. Rogers
I
gown
was
right here.
wondering. I didn't figure out that I was going to ask at the end of the show, but you're right. That is Mr. Thank you.
Just to channel that for you. Just welcome
Yes.
him to our conversation. It's a little, what do they call those Funko Pops things?
Yeah.
Is the first thing I bought for the show. Believe
Cool.
it or not.
Well, that's kind of amazing. That. Yeah, I love that. So anyway, you can tell me
Yeah.
about.
So, you know, just going back to this, just that people would see that in my life. I'm not perfect by any means. You know, I make mistakes just like everyone else does, but I just have this heart for people that comes out of this desire to want to know the why and want to know, you know, kind of who they are. And because again, I think if I understand somebody better, I can relate with them better. I can have a conversation with them. And I think for me, that's what I love most in life. I love conversations and that's what I love. That's why I love my job so much, even though people are like, oh, you're a debt collector and you love it. Okay, I don't love that part of it, but I love connecting with people. And I hear from the people I work with, I'm talking customers now, not coworkers. They're like, where do you get this gracious spirit from? Where do you get this spirit of empathy from? Like, you know where I'm coming from. Like, you know that, you know, I'm having this rough time, but you like, hey man, it's cool. You know, let's figure this out. Let's think outside the box, how we can, you know, get this to move forward. And I get comments all the time from customers saying, you know, I don't understand like why you do this. I'm like, because this is who I am. This is how God's wired me to be. And so, you know, that standpoint is kind of cool. So
Well, and what I love is that a big part of my message is I'm about, finding fulfillment and peace, and we need to balance that. But my point is that it doesn't mean that we have to dump everything out on the table and start over again. And that's why we're having this conversation. Honestly, when I talk about create a new normal, that doesn't mean you have to go find a new job and rebuild your life. It means think about the things that you value, and are you living those things out in your life? And if not, what do you have to let go of so that you can bring those things that you value into your life? But one more, the main point of this is that you are using the talents, the gifts, and the abilities that God gave you to serve his people. And part of it, I mean, you're an ordained minister.
well, I was credentialed. I was licensed as a pastor. I
Okay.
never I
Okay.
there's a
I
story behind why I didn't get fully ordained, but yeah, I did carry credentials as a pastor.
okay.
For
I read more into that than was there, but the point
that's
is,
okay.
the
Yeah.
point is that you have a calling. We all have a calling on our life. Your calling walked a little more closely to that end of it. I think people sometimes feel like to have a calling from God, you have to be in the church. And then nothing could be farther from the truth. We all have a calling. And I saw you reach out and touch Mr. Rogers there. And you're right. He was not, I mean, he too was a pastor at one point in his life, but that his main calling in life was to just teach children how to love. And really, when it comes right down to it, that's what we're all called to do wherever we are planted. Just love and accept people and show God's love.
So going back to the calling, and for me, I personally believe God took sorry. I personally believe God took the title pastor from me. One, because I stopped caring about being a pastor and I started caring about the title of a pastor, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
And so for me, I forfeited that by my choices. I made some very poor choices that not only, hurt my family, and, obviously hurt God first, but hurt my family, hurt my church family, hurt the youth that, I was serving with. Again, I cared more about Pastor Neil than I cared about Shepherd Neil. And, I was 25 at the time. I'm 40 now. Gosh, that was a long time ago. But I say that because I believe God can take all things, not some things, not kind of maybe a couple of things. No, all things can work together for God, for those who love him and are called according to his purpose. I believe that's Romans. So don't quote me on that for sure, but pretty close. But my point is that I made the title my God. And in doing so, God is super clear on that. I'm a jealous God. You're not going to put anything above me. And do I think he caused it to happen? No. Do I think he allowed it to happen to teach me a lesson as his child? Oh, you bet your bippy. and so that's where I come back to. And so for me, I'm very cautious of trying to grab at a title, trying to grab at something that isn't mine to grab. And for me, I'm just going to do what he's asked me to do, which right now is the podcast. Right now is your show. Right now is, anybody I can talk to about a recent guest that we have on that I think they could get some encouragement from. That's what I want to do. I've served at my local church in a youth ministry capacity and even previous, churches at a youth level. And so my heart, of course, is for young people. But right now, God's really shut that season down of working with young people, not because of any, transgression with kids. I want to be clear on that. But just for the fact that he says, you know what, this is where I have you right now. Your voice is making a difference. Go there. And I'm like, okay, I'll go there. Because who's going to say no to God? I mean, last time I checked, it's
we all try.
Oh, right. I try. I'm sure others have tried as well. But I don't know. I want to be clear on that. Like I for so long, man, I wanted that title. I wanted to be on that stage. I wanted to be the one, preaching to the people. I wanted that. And he's like, okay, you want it so bad? Here it is. And then when I got there, I'm like, oh, this sucks. Like maybe I shouldn't say sucks, but
I don't think that one's in the book.
Yeah, right. But I don't know. I again, I cared more about the title than the people. And during that fall, and it was a Humpty Dumpty fall. I mean, a lot of things shattered in my life, and I think I still look back on that and go, man, if I could go back and talk to that 25-year-old Neil, one, I'd probably punch him in the face and be like, dude, what are you doing? Like, get with the program. Why are you sitting around playing solitaire? Go be with the kids, And I did a lot of just not caring for the people, again, caring for the title. And I think that's what has pushed me and propelled me to say, no, if I ever do something publicly again, it's going to be all about the people and all about caring for people. So,
but see, I will come back and counter that and say, you don't want to do that over again, because you wouldn't be here with the message you have today if you could go back and do it differently. I believe that he, like you just quoted to us, he uses everything for his good. And you're right, he didn't make that happen, but he found a beautiful way. He knew you were going to, and he found a beautiful way to connect all of the dots of all of the people, all the things in your life to bring together to where you are today. That doesn't mean you'll be here forever. You will take a different path when he calls you to it, but you don't want to do it over again.
well, my mother-in-law, so if she ever hears this.
I listened to that interview too.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
She's amazing. I love her.
Yes.
So
I think she and I could be really good friends.
I'll introduce you. You guys could, I'm sure. She's a prayer warrior. I love her. I'm obviously blessed to be married to her daughter, which is truly just a blessing every day to be married to my wife. But her mom is pretty amazing herself. But my mother-in-law, she doesn't remember this, but I reminded her of this a couple of days ago, actually. I said, hey, do you remember when I left the church and everything was bad? And she goes, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I said, do you remember praying over me? And she said, well, I prayed over you a lot. I mean, hello, you're married to my daughter. I pray for you constantly. I'm like, well, thank you. Keep doing that. But she says, I said, no, you prayed over me. And you said, don't worry about being on the stage because God is going to put you on a stage in front of thousands, maybe even 5,000s, maybe even 10,000s. And I was like, yeah, okay. Come on, mom, mother-in-law, come on, come on. It's okay. Come on. Really? So I don't often share this, especially in a public forum like this, but our show is creeping up towards the 10,000 download mark.
Wow.
As I saw that the other day, praise God for sure. As I saw that the other day, like I almost, again, not a guy that weeps. I'm just not. But man, my heart just was like, God, okay, you know what you're doing. Let me just stand back and enjoy it.
Well,
So
and the other point that I want to make is I think there's this misconception out there that those of us who are believers, who have faith, Christians, we think we're all that and we're perfect and that's what gives us the ability to tell others about our lives and all of that. And I love the fact that more than once you've shared things about your life that are less than perfect, and we all have that. And if there's somebody out there that's trying to pretend that they are to bring someone to Christ, that's not what's going to work. It's the fact that we're human and we can authentically own up to all of the mistakes we've made and know that we're forgiven, and God will use that to bring people to him.
yeah, and again, I'll be the first to raise my hand and say I'm not perfect. I don't do things always the right way, but my dad is a former Marine, and he did instill very few principles, but one that really stuck was do it better than you did yesterday.
Mm.
And that to me is kind of my driving mantra in life, really, is do it better than I did yesterday. Sometimes that's bad, right? Because, it's a little almost perfectionist in nature, like, okay, but I don't take it to this so grandiose scale. Like, I mean, as an example, maybe I didn't make my bed yesterday. Okay, well, today, guess what? I'm going to make my bed, or man, yesterday I was really mean to my daughter. Man, I'm going to wake up this morning just really trying to pour into her and really trying to not get as critical and mean. I mean, she's 13. Hello. Sometimes there's some parenting that needs to
Oh, you're
happen.
just getting started.
Can't wait for the more that comes. But
You're
but I
not
say
longing
that,
for more of that, are you?
no, man, nope, no. But I guess that's really the essence of who I am. I'm just trying to do it better than I did yesterday. And I'm not saying I do it the best or the greatest, but man, I'm giving it my best. And I know you asked a couple of quotes or sayings that jump out at us. I mean, there's so many, but I really narrowed it down to a couple. My life verse is Acts 20:24, and it says, "But I do not consider my life worth nothing to me. But if I can finish the race and complete the ministry I have received from the Lord Jesus Christ to testify solely to the gospel of God." So that's one version of it. And then another one that I really love too, it's from a runner, Steve Prefontaine. He's an Oregon runner. And he says, to give anything less than your best is to sacrifice the gift. And I guess that's what really propels me forward also.
I heard that on your show the other day too, and I love that
It
quote.
makes its way on quite a bit because I just really love it.
Yeah.
So it kind of weaves its way in every
Well,
now and
it's
then.
so beautiful. In fact, I'm going to do a meme on that.
Yeah.
Based,
There
so
you go.
so you can
Okay.
share that if you want.
Okay. Meme.
But I want to go back to your doing it better today than yesterday.
Yeah.
And what's really cool about that is I'm a life coach. I've got certification in health and life. And honestly, the basis of any kind of coaching, as you probably already know because you're a runner, is you just do incremental, do it better. And they just say 1%. That's all you have to shoot for. If you do it 1% better today than you did yesterday, you're going to get there. So.
Yeah, my problem is, this is probably why I need a life coach. So maybe we need to talk off air on how I can, get the most out of my life or have the best life now. I think Joel Osteen said, or whatever people think of him. But my personality is an all or nothing, which is terrible. There's never a middle. Like there's never this just like halfway or half tank full. It's either all in or not in.
Mm-hmm.
It does, I've been married 19 years come August, and I think that probably drives my wife a little batty sometimes because she's like, you didn't do anything. I'm like, yeah, I don't know, I just didn't feel like it. And then she's like, other times she comes home and she's like, wow, you did everything. That's fantastic. Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. And there has to be a parade because of my personality. Like if I do something great, I want a parade in my honor, and which is, counterintuitive to the Bible. But I say that because I really do try my very best to just do it better than I did yesterday, and try to in every area of my life, whether that be work, home, podcast life, whatever, just do it better than I did yesterday.
So has there ever been a time in your life when God whispered in your ear and you just knew, you had that longing that there must be more than this?
Yeah, I think it was when I um I went through a pretty bad fall, as I mentioned, with a church, and I worked my way back, worked restoration back, and took those steps back. And that was a long, really long year to get back, I guess you could say, to a serving level of ministry. And we had our annual meeting, our church's big, year-end celebration, everything that had gone on, and they recognized me and the efforts that I had done to, get back and get in good standing and all that. And so people are applauding, and um, I heard this voice in my head, which was not mine, and I don't know if it was God's. So, full disclosure, I don't know. I don't know. I want to think it was, but he said, you hear all these applause. I have so much more for you.
Mm-hmm.
Even know. And I said, kind of puzzled. I look like, who's talking to me? You kind of have that look moment, and that began a journey to leaving the church that we were at, which was hard because I had not only, obviously been on staff there, but I'd grown up in the church there. I'd been in middle school through, high school there, and then became in leadership. It was a hard decision to finally get to leave. And so fast forward, I did all these fasting and praying, mother-in-law's suggestion, by the way. So shout out to her on that. And, through that process, God showed me some stuff. I was getting gas one day, and my alma mater, high school, was in a soccer championship for the state. And the headline says, South Medford moves on. And it caught my attention, the moving on part. And I was like, that's interesting. Driving down a road that I've been on thousands of times, twice a day for 4 years, 5 years. And there's a sign that on a church, ironically, that says, hurts, habits, hangups, we can help you. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. I mean, I have hurts, habits. I have a lot of hangups, and that okay, you're funny, God. Thanks for that. I'm good. And then the last one, I was driving home one night, dropping my daughter off at a friend's house, and I was coming down this kind of windy road, and man, this Brandon Heath song came on, and it says, the lyric is, he's not finished with you yet. And I was at a very dark place, all these signs, the fasting, all of this. And I was like screaming, pulled the car over, screaming top of my lungs. What do you mean you're not finished with me yet? What are you talking about? I'm done. Like, I'm damaged goods. I've soiled myself. I'm disqualified. I've done all these bad things to hurt my wife and hurt my family and hurt the church and hurt your people. And what do you mean you can't use me? You're done with me. You're finished with me. And as I said, this song came on, and I actually went back and listened to that song the other day because I needed some perspective on where I've come from.
Mm-hmm.
And it again brought me back to that roadside car moment. And I was like, man, thank you. Thank you for that reminder. Thank you that you have not truly given up on me and others. And I think, again, it just compelled me forward to say, okay, you messed up today. Okay, we can fix that. You're forgiven. Now let's go. Don't go back there. You don't need to go back there, but let's go. So,
I assume you've heard of David.
you mean the dude that like brought a guy home?
Yeah, that guy.
The guy got his wife pregnant, then brought the guy home, killed him.
Yeah, that guy.
And killed him. Yeah,
He,
yeah, I've heard of that guy. Yeah,
he was God's chosen. He doesn't pick the perfect people to serve, and I'm glad that he found that beautiful trilogy way to bring you to that knowing, because I love what you're doing. I think that you are on the path to help us find the way so that we can all feel loved and appreciated wherever we are. We're going to get there.
well, thank you. Thank you for that. I think I just comes out of a desire to, I just want people to feel love. My parents were really great people. They were really hardworking people. I mean, my dad's a Marine. For goodness sakes, you can't get any more hardworking than that. So my mom has worked with kids my whole life. I mean, so many daycare kids that I've known through the years, and we should one day have a reunion, and God willing, maybe that'll happen in heaven. My mom can see, all the people she's ministered to through the years. But the thing for me, and again, I love my parents dearly. I don't want them to ever think negative of that. But the part that I missed growing up as a child is I was so needy and so starved for love and support on an emotional level that I don't think they were really either understanding of or maybe even capable of giving, because there were three other kids. There were four of us all together. And so my personality is very needy in a lot of respects, and I'm shamefully admitting that. But I think that is also what causes me to go to that other person and show them the love that I hope that all of us can have, and the love that all of us should be willing to give, is this idea of, I don't know where you're at, but man, I want to love you where you are. And I want to just encourage you where you are, because you might not have that cheerleader in the corner. Let me be that for you. My number one spiritual gift is encouragement, which I always thought was kind of lame, like not a dude spiritual gift. Like I didn't get helps. I didn't get like fix it stuff. Like I can't change your transmission. But man, if you're having a bad day, I can love on you. I can give you a hug. I can give you an inspirational thought. I can do that, but I can't do like the man stuff to like fix the barbecue or, make the lawnmower run right. I can't do that. But man, I can write you a poem. I can create a cool little podcast for you with, recently, if I'm bragging a little bit, my mom had her birthday, and I got about 20 something people, maybe more, to put a little tribute together for her. They're saying, happy birthday to her. And then they're, talking about a trait or a quality that they love about my mom. And I put all those voices together called Voices of Hope, because my mom's had a really rough year. And so I gave it to her. It's about 35 minutes in length, which is crazy, but good. Jody sang on it from our group, and she did fantastic. She'll tell you she didn't, but she did. But I did that, and I got so much feedback from people saying, what made you think of this? And I said, because it's something we all need to hear. And my mom especially, and I love her dearly, we all need to hear this. And I think if you could have that CD, which I know we don't do those anymore, but if you could have that CD, you could go turn on, right? How powerful is the voice of encouragement? You know this as a job coach. How powerful is that voice? And to be that voice for my mom, something I take very seriously, and obviously I take it very seriously on the show, even though we have fun, but I do take that seriously. So
very cool. Very cool. So any last thoughts you'd like to share? How do people find the podcast?
Boy, that's fun. So yeah, I don't do too many podcast interviews. So I'm kind of a rookie when it comes to this stuff. I haven't been on too many shows, which is okay.
I can't tell by the way the conversation's going, by the way. I'm
I just
honored to have you here. This has been such a fun conversation.
an honor to be here. How about that? It's more of an honor to be here to help you in what you're doing, and I love what you're doing. You have such a soft, gentle voice, and I just really value that because for me when I was listening to, I think I got through 5 or 6 of your shows. I just picked randomly, um, but every time I was like, man, she just has such a soft like voice, like just so peaceful. I'm like, I need that like peaceful, soft. I don't want to say
I have a
sultry.
girlfriend. I have a girlfriend that listens on the way to work, and she's laughed about the fact that she's afraid I'm going to put her to sleep one of these days.
I
I
mean,
haven't yet.
I'm not going to go that far, but it is very soft and soothing. And for me, in my chaos that I live and work in, it's nice to have a softer voice opposed to a crazier voice like mine. But how can people listen? Pretty easy, opspodcast.com. It's a great place to bookmark and come back each and every Wednesday. Our show comes out. Of course, we're on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. So if you want to follow us, like us, tweet us there. That can be done at OPS Podcast Show. So it's a little different. We just added the show to the end of it for social media just so we can have a little bit different. And then, of course, we have a phone number. I don't know if you want to give that out, but we do have a
Only
phone
up
number.
to you.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't have 10,000 people listening to my show, so you're probably safe.
I don't have 10,000 yet either, but maybe one day. But we do have a phone number if people want to reach out to us or maybe just need a word of encouragement or anything like that. We of course would offer that and provide that. There's no charge for that. We just want to love on people and love on who they are. And maybe somebody listening, is like, man, that spirit of empathy, that's something I can get behind. That's a movement I want to know more about. They can of course text us or leave a voicemail. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's available to you, and that number is 203-548-7463. By the way, it spells shoe at the end, in case you were wondering.
I didn't even think about it, but that's perfect.
Yes, it does spell shoe at the end. So I had to hunt long and hard to get a number with the last form of it being shoe. So
I love it. I love it.
yeah, but I mean, just a last thought, I would just say, I'm going to go back to my other quote. I made notes for you, so that should tell you how nervous or prepared I was trying to be. So one of my favorite quotes, it comes out of the Shawshank Redemption, and some may recognize that if they've seen that movie, but it says, I have to remind myself that some birds aren't meant to be caged. Their feathers are just too bright. And when they fly away, the part of you that knows it was a sin to lock them up does rejoice. Still, the place you live in is that much more drab and empty that they're gone. And I guess that resonates with me because sometimes I feel like my feathers are just really bright. And I hope, my hope would be that not when I leave a place that it's, drab and empty, because, I don't necessarily want that, but I hope that people would remember the fact that we really are trying to just make a difference. One small step at a time. There's a great story, one small sea star at a time. I resonate with that story too a lot. That weaves its way into our show a lot. But I just want to make a difference. And if I can be a source of that or bring a source of encouragement to somebody, man, praise God. That's my heart. It's not about Neil. It's not about other people's shoes. It's not about North Carolina. There we go. Get it all in there. But
you almost missed it.
I almost missed it. I was like, wait, I'm forgetting who am I not mentioning? But it's not about that for me. It really is just about bringing encouragement and love to people in a very authentic way. So I guess that's my final thought, as crazy as it may sound.
No, that's that you are doing just that. And I want to thank you not only for being on the show and being so open and honest with us today, but I want to thank you for answering God's call. It can be scary to step out and do the crazy things he asks us to do sometime. And we just have to remember that if he calls us to it, he's going to take us through it. And I just feel really blessed that we've gotten to know each other in our little group. And we're going to talk again. I know that. So, hey, thanks for bringing Mr. Rogers along today. That's perfect.
Absolutely. Well, Vonna, considering this your official invitation to get in your shoes, so we've been getting some feedback about asking the shoe size question. So
I'm ready.
We'll talk that over. But we would of course love to have you on our show and give you an opportunity to talk about, not only what you're doing, but just where you've been and where you've walked. Because again, we think that your story is just as important, if not more, than ours is. So
I would love that. So thank you. Thank you so much. God bless. Well, folks, there you have it. I hope you were as blessed by that conversation as I was. Neil had so many encouraging words to share with us, and the vulnerability that he shared with us truly brings tears to my eyes at different places. So, anyway, I just want to thank you for stopping by today. It means so much to me that you take the time out of your busy schedule to come here. If you were touched by this and you know someone else that might benefit, please share this episode with them. Also, if you would love to listen to more of what Neil has to say, please go to his podcast. It's Other People's Shoes, and you can find that at opspodcast.com. I will leave that and his phone number that he so generously shared in the show notes for this. And I just pray that you will really take to heart the invitation to look at things from other people's shoes. If you're enjoying this series on creating a new normal, and honestly, I know that there are people out there that take that as a negative connotation, and it's certainly not meant to be. As we talked about, it's really about just thinking seriously about the kinds of things we're letting into our lives. In fact, I've kind of renamed the whole process in living a life of peace and fulfillment. If you're interested in going through the short guide that I put together, and it's just a list of questions to help you think about that. That website I've been talking about is complete, and you can just go to vannajohnson.com and download that today. I would be grateful for you to do that. I think you will be blessed by that experience, something that we should all do on occasion. So, once again, thank you so much for stopping by. Go be blessed, stay safe, and live your more.